What if I told you that everything you've been taught about success is a lie? That the very things you fear, failure, rejection, mistakes, are not your enemies, but the hidden keys to greatness? Stay until the end, and you'll never see life the same again. Part 1. Lessons from Youth and Mistakes. When you are young, it is easy to believe that life will always give you unlimited chances, that every door will remain open, and that time will wait for you. But the truth is, every season of life has its own unique opportunities and responsibilities. If you miss them, they rarely come back. This is why it is so important to understand what each stage of your life is truly for, so you can make the right choices when it matters most. From the age of 25 to 30, your life is still a canvas. You may feel uncertain, you may still be searching, and that is natural. This is the stage where you must explore widely. Try careers, test your ideas, step into places where you feel uncomfortable. Do not be afraid of being lost, because it is through this exploration that you will begin to discover the compass of your life. The mistake many people make at this age is that they try to look as if they already know it all. They chase stability too early, they settle into routines that suffocate their potential, and they forget that this short period of freedom is meant for testing the waters. If you take risks now, the cost of failure is still small, but if you wait until later, the price becomes heavier. So, 25 to 30 is your laboratory, your chance to experiment before the world demands greater responsibility. But once you cross into 30 to 40, everything changes. This is the most decisive decade of your life. The time for endless experiments is over. Now you must choose. Whose dream are you building? Are you still working for someone else's vision, or are you ready to commit to your own? If you want to be an entrepreneur, this is the season to lay the foundation. You may still feel uncertain, but you cannot afford to keep drifting. These years are when your energy, your determination, and your ambition are at their peak. If you waste them chasing other people's goals, you will wake up at 40 and realize that the best of your strength has been spent on something that does not belong to you. This is why clarity matters so much in your 30s. It is not about knowing all the answers, but about deciding which questions you will devote your life to. Then comes the decade from 40 to 50. By now, you have already tried, you have fought, and you have built something. This is no longer the season to scatter your attention. It is the season to focus relentlessly on what you do best. If you spread yourself thin, if you keep chasing every new opportunity, you will lose the sharpness that you have earned. At this stage, mastery is what counts. The world does not need you to try everything. It needs you to concentrate on the unique value only you can bring. Many people at this age look around and see younger competitors coming up faster and hungrier. They panic, thinking they must keep up with every trend, every new wave. But the real strength of your 40s is not in running faster than the young, but in running deeper than anyone else. You cannot compete with a 25-year-old in energy, but you can outlast them with depth, focus, and wisdom. And finally, from 50 to 60, the meaning of success changes. At this stage, it is no longer about proving yourself. It is about passing the torch. The truth is, young people will always surpass you in speed, in adaptation, in raw energy. And that is how it should be. Your greatest contribution now is to lift them higher, to share your hard-won lessons, to invest in them, to guide them past the mistakes that once cost you so much. This is not a loss. It is a legacy. Too many older people resist this truth. They cling to power, they try to compete with the young, and in doing so, they only weaken themselves. But those who embrace mentorship, who pour their wisdom into the next generation, discover a deeper satisfaction than personal success ever gave them. Because when you help others rise, your influence continues long after you are gone. Each decade of life comes with a gift, but also with a demand. If you are in your 20s, the gift is freedom and the demand is courage. If you're in your 30s, the gift is energy and the demand is clarity. If you're in your 40s, the gift is experience and the demand is focus. And if you're in your 50s, the gift is wisdom and the demand is generosity. If you misuse these gifts, life will punish you with regret. But if you embrace them, life will reward you with growth, fulfillment, and impact. The question is not whether you will face challenges in each stage. You certainly will. The question is whether you will live each stage as it is meant to be lived. If you try to cling to youth in your 30s, you will waste your strength. If you try to chase every shiny distraction in your 40s, you will squander your experience. If you try to compete with the young in your 50s, you will rob yourself of legacy. Wisdom means recognizing the season you are in and giving yourself fully to what that season demands. I have seen many people fail not because they lack talent, but because they misunderstood time. They treated their 20s like their 50s, seeking safety too early. Or they treated their 40s like their 20s, chasing novelty instead of focus. And by the time they realized the mistake, it was too late. Life does not wait for you to understand it. It moves forward whether you are ready or not. The only choice you have is whether to align yourself with its seasons or to fight against them. So, wherever you are right now, whether you are 25 or 55, ask yourself, am I living this stage of life the way it is meant to be lived? Am I embracing the gift and meeting the demand? If you can answer yes, then no matter where you start, you are already on the path to true success. Part 2, the stages of life and focus. There is a rhythm to life that most people ignore. They live as if time is unlimited, as if they can wander forever without consequence. But life is not that forgiving. Each stage of life has a different calling, a different lesson, a different demand. If you treat your 20s like your 40s, you waste your freedom. If you treat your 40s like your 20s, you squander your wisdom. The people who rise the highest are not those who run the fastest, but those who know when to run, when to slow down, and when to pass the torch. Between 25 and 30, life is still giving you space to experiment. These are years of discovery, years when you should dive into new experiences, take risks, and push yourself beyond what feels comfortable. You are not supposed to have all the answers. You are supposed to ask bold questions. But too many young people rush into stability. They accept a job they don't love, stay in a city that drains them, or hold on to relationships that limit them because they fear uncertainty more than they fear regret. The truth is, your late 20s are a laboratory. They are the one season of life when failure costs little but teaches much. If you are willing to explore, to stumble, to start over, you will enter your 30s with a map, not just a resume. But when you cross into your 30s, the game changes. This decade is not about wandering endlessly, it is about direction. This is when you must ask yourself, am I building a future that belongs to me, or am I still serving someone else's dream? You cannot keep drifting forever. If you want to start a business, launch a vision, or build something that carries your name, this is the time to begin. Your 30s are the decade of clarity. They demand that you choose a path, even if the path is hard. Many people waste these years in confusion, jumping from one pursuit to another, always starting but never committing. And by the time they reach 40, they realize that their energy, their sharpest weapon, has already been spent. The tragedy is not that they failed, but that they never truly tried. From 40 to 50, the stage shifts again. These are not years to scatter yourself. They are years to concentrate, to double down on what you do best. You have gathered enough experience, enough scars, enough lessons. Now is the time to stop chasing everything and start sharpening the one thing that defines you. In your 40s, mastery is more powerful than variety. The world will tell you that you are getting old, that younger people are faster, smarter, more adaptable. But here's the truth. Youth can run faster, but they cannot yet run deeper. They may have energy, but you have experience. They may have speed, but you have strategy. If you panic and try to compete with them on their battlefield, you will lose. But if you focus on depth, on the excellence that only years can build, you will create something they cannot touch. And then there's the decade of 50 to 60. By this time, success is no longer about proving yourself. It is not about being the loudest or the fastest. It is about giving back, about turning from ambition to legacy. This is when the most powerful act you can perform is to empower others. The younger generation will outpace you in energy and adaptation, and that is natural. But instead of resisting them, you must support them, mentor them, and invest in them. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. Too many people in their 50s cling to relevance by trying to compete with the young. They fight to stay at the center of the stage, not realizing that true greatness at this age is not about standing in the spotlight, but about helping others shine. Legacy is built when your wisdom, your guidance, and your belief in others outlast your own achievements. Each season of life comes with a gift, and each gift carries a responsibility. The gift of your 20s is freedom, and its responsibility is courage. The gift of your 30s is energy, and its responsibility is clarity. The gift of your 40s is experience, and its responsibility is focus. The gift of your 50s is wisdom, and its responsibility is generosity. If you misuse the gift, it disappears. If you neglect the responsibility, it turns into regret. But if you embrace both, life will reward you with growth, fulfillment, and peace. The tragedy of many lives is not that they lack talent, but that they misread time. They cling to safety when they should be bold, and they chase novelty when they should be grounded. They refuse to let go when it is time to pass the torch, and they refuse to begin when it is time to take the leap. Life is a series of doors, and each door is only open for a season. If you miss it, you cannot go back. But if you walk through it at the right time, it leads you to places you could never have imagined. So wherever you are today, stop and ask yourself, am I honoring the season of life I am in? Am I embracing its gift and fulfilling its demand? Because the difference between a wasted life and a meaningful one is not luck, not even talent. It is the wisdom to recognize the time you are living in and the courage to live it fully. Part 3. The future of competition. For most of human history, the people who succeeded were the ones who knew the most. Knowledge was rare, information was locked away in books that only a few could access, and education was a privilege. To have knowledge was to have power. But we are stepping into a world where knowledge alone is no longer enough. Today, machines can store more knowledge than the greatest scholars of the past. A single device in your pocket can access more information than entire universities once contained. If knowledge is everywhere, then it no longer sets you apart. What will define your future is not how much you know, but how differently you think. The real competition of the future is the competition of creativity, imagination, and independent thought. It is the ability to look at a problem and see a possibility that no one else sees. It is the courage to connect ideas that others keep apart. It is the skill of learning, unlearning, and relearning in a world that changes faster than any textbook can keep up. Knowledge may open the door, but creativity decides whether you step into a new world or stay stuck in the old one. Think about it. In the past, the economy was driven by factories and machines. People were trained to think like parts of a system, efficient, predictable, repeatable. For a time, this made sense because manufacturing needed discipline and uniformity. But the next 30 years will not be about manufacturing sameness. They will be about creating difference. The winners will not be those who repeat old answers, but those who invent new ones. The leaders will not be those who memorize formulas, but those who imagine possibilities. If you think like a machine, you will be replaced by one. But if you think like a creator, if you think like a human with imagination and vision, no machine can ever take your place. This is why the future belongs to those who dare to think independently. Conformity may have been rewarded in the past, but in the coming years, it will be punished. If you follow every trend without questioning it, you will disappear into the noise. If you only repeat what others have already said, your voice will fade. The world will celebrate those who are bold enough to ask different questions, to challenge assumptions, to imagine realities that do not exist yet. And here is the most important part. Independent thinking is not arrogance. It is not about rejecting everything others say. It is about having the humility to listen, but also the courage to decide for yourself. But there is one more element, one that few people talk about, yet it may be the most crucial of all. We often measure intelligence by IQ. We talk about emotional intelligence, EQ, and its role in leadership. But in the future, we must also measure something else, LQ, the love quotient. This may sound strange in a world obsessed with technology, but it is true. Only when you care for others, only when you put people before power, only when you succeed by lifting others higher than yourself, can you create something that lasts. Machines can calculate, but they cannot care. They can predict, but they cannot love. And in a world filled with technology, it is the human capacity to love, to connect, and to create meaning that will define the greatest leaders. Think of the innovators who have changed the world, not just those who built companies, but those who built movements. They did not succeed simply because they had knowledge. They succeeded because they cared. They cared about solving a problem that mattered. They cared about people who were forgotten. They cared enough to keep going when the world told them to stop. Knowledge gave them tools, but love gave them purpose. And purpose is what people follow. In the coming decades, technology will disrupt every industry. Jobs will vanish, new ones will appear, and entire ways of living will be reshaped. This will create fear for many, because change always does. But for those who are creative, for those who are imaginative, for those who keep learning, and who care deeply about others, this change will not be the end. It will be the beginning. The future is not something to fear, it is something to create. And the people who will create it are not those with the most information, but those with the most imagination and the deepest compassion. So, if you want to prepare for the future, do not only fill your mind with knowledge, train your imagination, practice curiosity, ask why not, instead of only asking why. Surround yourself with people who think differently, not just those who think like you. Learn to love learning itself, because in a world that changes this fast, the most valuable skill is the ability to keep learning forever. And above all, develop your love quotient. Care about the people you serve, because in the end, success without love is empty, and innovation without humanity is dangerous. The competition of the future is not about who knows the most. It is about who imagines the most, who learns the fastest, who thinks the most independently, and who cares the most deeply. And if you can do these things, if you can combine creativity with compassion, imagination with responsibility, then no matter how much the world changes, you will not only survive, you will lead. Part 4: Entrepreneurship and Attitude Toward Life. Starting a business, chasing a vision, or simply daring to live differently will always attract doubt. The world has a habit of calling dreamers crazy because their ideas do not fit into the safe patterns that most people understand. When I began my own journey, many people laughed at me. They told me my ideas would never work, that I was naive, that I should just follow the traditional path and avoid unnecessary risks. At first, those words hurt. Rejection always hurts. But over time, I discovered something powerful. When everyone agrees with you, it usually means you are doing something ordinary, and ordinary never changes the world. If people call you crazy, it may be because you see something they do not. That is not a weakness, it is a gift. But here is what most people misunderstand about entrepreneurship. It is not about glory, it is about responsibility. It is not about looking brilliant, but about solving problems. The true entrepreneur is not the one who seeks praise, but the one who faces problems others ignore. Too many people step into business because they want quick rewards, money, or recognition. Yet the ones who endure are those who see a pain point, a frustration, a complaint, and decide to fix it, no matter how long it takes. Complaints are the seeds of opportunity. Every time you hear someone say, "This is terrible, this doesn't work, this is unfair," you are hearing the voice of the market asking for a solution. The difference between a complainer and a creator is simple. The complainer stops at frustration, but the creator transforms frustration into innovation. That is why attitude matters more than talent. I have seen brilliant people with degrees from the best universities collapse under the weight of disappointment because they could not endure failure. And I have seen ordinary people with no special background rise to incredible heights because they refuse to give up. What separates them is not knowledge, not resources, but attitude. If you spend your energy blaming others for your failures, you will never rise again. But if you are willing to look at yourself and say, "What can I do differently? How can I improve?" then every failure becomes a new chance. It is not the size of the obstacle that decides your future. It is the size of your mindset when you face it. Business itself should never be treated as war. Too often, people think competition means destroying the other side, that for me to win, you must lose. But this is an illusion. Even if your competitor falls, that does not mean you automatically succeed. Business is not about death and survival. It is about value and creation. It is about making something people want, something people need, something that changes lives. Competition, when viewed correctly, is not a battlefield. It is a playground. It is a challenge that pushes you to grow, to innovate, to refine your craft. If you can approach business with this mindset, then even in loss, you learn, and in learning, you move closer to lasting success. I remember countless times when investors rejected me, when colleagues doubted me, when even friends thought I was wasting my life. Those were lonely moments, moments where it felt easier to quit than to keep going. But in those moments, I learned to shift my focus from how the world saw me to how I saw myself. Did I believe in the problem I was trying to solve? Did I care about the people I was trying to serve? Did I love the work enough to keep going, even without applause? The answer to those questions became my compass, and it must become yours too. Because if your only motivation is recognition, you will give up when recognition does not come. But if your motivation is love, for the mission, for the people, for the difference you can make, then nothing will stop you. When we started building, there was no guarantee of success. In fact, most signs pointed to failure. We had no money from the banks, no support from the government, no powerful networks. What we had was belief, unity, and persistence. We made mistakes, many of them. We were called foolish, unrealistic, even delusional. Yet we continued. And as we continued, something remarkable happened. The very things people mocked became the very things people admired. What once looked impossible began to look inevitable. Not because the world suddenly changed, but because we refused to quit until it did. The lesson here is simple but profound. Being an entrepreneur, or even just living with an entrepreneurial spirit, is not about avoiding fear. It is about walking through it. It is not about never failing. It is about failing more times than others are willing to and still finding the strength to rise again. It is not about having everything figured out. It is about taking the first step even when the path ahead is unclear. So when you face rejection, when people tell you that your dream is foolish, remember this. History was not written by the people who agreed with everyone else. It was written by those who were bold enough to stand alone until others caught up. The names we remember, the companies that changed the world, the movements that transformed society, they were all built by people who embraced risk, who embraced failure, and who carried an attitude that no setback could crush. If you choose this path, it will not be easy. You will be misunderstood, you will be criticized, you will be told to quit. But if you carry the right attitude, if you learn to see opportunities hidden inside complaints, if you treat competition as a chance to grow rather than a war to win, then every obstacle will become a stepping stone. And in the end, you will discover that entrepreneurship is not just about building a business, it is about building yourself. Part 5, final message: faith, perseverance, and hope. When people ask me what success truly means, I hesitate. Not because I do not know the answer, but because I have learned that success is not what most people imagine it to be. Many believe success is a destination, a point where you finally arrive, where struggle ends and glory begins. They see it as the mansion, the recognition, the wealth, the applause. But after a lifetime of struggle, failure, and unexpected victories, I have come to realize something deeper. Success is not a finish line. Success is the road itself. It is the journey of becoming, not the moment of arriving. I did not succeed because the world finally accepted me. I did not succeed because the doors suddenly opened or because fortune favored me. I succeeded because at every moment of rejection, I chose not to give up. I succeeded because when the path was unclear, I took another step forward anyway. Success at its core is not about how high you climb, but about how long you endure. It is about the refusal to quit when quitting feels easier than continuing. This is why faith matters so much. Faith is not blind optimism. It is not pretending that the road will be easy. Faith is the quiet strength that keeps you moving, even when the evidence around you says you should stop. Faith is the belief that the future can be different if you dare to shape it. Without faith, the storms of life will break you. With faith, they will shape you. And along with faith, there must be perseverance. Everyone can begin with excitement, but very few continue when excitement fades. The road to anything meaningful is long, and it is filled with obstacles that will test every fiber of your being. You will face rejection, and you will doubt yourself. You will see others racing ahead while you struggle just to move an inch. And in those moments, perseverance is the only weapon you have. Perseverance whispers, keep going, one more step, one more day. Perseverance turns time into your ally because while talent can sparkle quickly, only perseverance can sustain. Yet even faith and perseverance are not enough without hope. Hope is the vision that gives meaning to your struggle. Hope is what turns your scars into stories, your failures into lessons, and your setbacks into stepping stones. Without hope, you are only surviving. With hope, you are building. And when you build with hope, you not only rise, you lift others with you. I have seen many people lose hope too soon. They face a few failures and decide the world is against them. They convince themselves that opportunity is reserved for the lucky or the privileged. But I am living proof that this is not true. I did not come from wealth. I did not inherit power. I did not have the world cheering for me. What I had was belief, a relentless spirit, and the courage to keep going when everything around me said no. If I could do it, so can you. Because the secret is not in never falling, it is in never staying down. As you move forward in your own journey, remember this. Your life will not be defined by a single moment of triumph, but by the countless moments when you chose to continue. Do not measure yourself against others. Their path is not yours. Do not let rejection convince you that you are unworthy. Rejection is proof that you are trying. Do not wait for perfect timing, because perfect timing does not exist. Start where you are with what you have, and trust that the road will reveal itself as you walk. One day, when you look back, you will realize that the applause, the titles, and even the wealth are not what mattered most. What will matter is the person you became in the process. Did you remain faithful to your vision? Did you persevere when others gave up? Did you hold on to hope even in the darkest nights? These are the true measures of success. So here's my final message to you. Do not quit. No matter how many times you fail, no matter how loudly the world tells you that you cannot, no matter how heavy the burden feels, do not quit. Because as long as you keep moving, there is always hope. And as long as there is hope, there is always a future. The journey will not be easy, but it will be worth it. And when your own story is told one day, let it be said that you were not the one who gave up, not the one who complained, but the one who believed, who endured, and who kept hope alive. Because in the end, true success is not about what you have. It is about who you become and about the light you leave behind for those who come after you. And now, as we come to the end of this journey, remember this. Success is not a destination waiting for you at the finish line. It is the person you are becoming along the way. Every setback, every rejection, every small victory is shaping a version of you far stronger than you realize. Hold on to faith, embrace perseverance, and never let go of hope, because the future does not belong to those who quit. It belongs to those who endure. Your story is still being written, and the next chapter is in your hands.